Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. It is Monday, first day of fall.
Yes.
It officially begins this afternoon in Milwaukee, which is exciting.
But it feels more like summer.
It sure feels like summer, and that's the way the weekend was, too, especially with the humidity. It was awful out there on Sunday.
It was, and you know, I keep thinking about all the people who are going to the Wine and Harvest Festival. We had a lot of events downtown, and the orchards. I mean, going out in the orchards in this, it's muggy, it's buggy, it's
buggy,
a little muddy out there, especially with all the rain we had.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of the weekend, if you were out there at all, it looked like this. We had a combination of clouds at times with heavy rain, sunshine. Well, not there; it's nighttime, of course. But as we see the loop, we did have some peaks of sunshine, and they even led to some ponding in areas or even some flooding I've seen in parking lots of Brookfield, and one storm over Elkhorn even had some hail. So we had this sent in from Heather. Thank you for sending this in. It was really one of the only storms that produced hail. We didn't have great wind shear for hail, but this storm was severe warned and was the main concern of having not just a couple hailstones, but obviously you could see a lot here. Other than that, you know, most of these storms were pulse-like storms. We have a lot of moisture. Of course, you felt it outside. So they kind of blew up and then they would fall down and quickly weaken, killing themselves out. But we had storms and showers Saturday and Sunday, and now we're seeing more of that heading into Monday.
Which we anticipated, of course. We talked a lot about it, you know, last week. Of course, the system is going to linger and linger. So yes, all that activity still continues today and potentially even Tuesday into Wednesday. So just keep that rain gear handy. All right, well, moving on.
We have a lot of flooding that has been going on, of course, across the area.
Yes.
And there's going to be help available for flood victims in Washington County this week. Today through Friday, in fact, in the Disaster Survivor Assistance Field teams from FEMA will be at the Richfield Fire Station and Germantown Village Hall. They'll be able to help flood victims apply for federal assistance and refer them to community resources. The Joint Disaster Recovery Center in West Bend is also still open this week.
And Waukesha County is opening 3 disaster recovery centers. It's to help residents recover from the August storms and flooding. The first center starts Tuesday, September 23rd at Butler Village Hall, with Brookfield and Muskego set to open later in October. At the centers, people can get help applying for federal assistance. They can talk with county, state, and federal officials and check on their FEMA applications. The assistance covers things like home repairs, personal property losses, and other disaster-related needs. Officials say the deadline to apply for individual help is November 12th, and business assistance applications are due by November 10th.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on, of course. You know, people are trying to recover. They're trying to, you know, some people who myself who are really trying to get new drywall in, take care of their basements, and seeing more rain is not great. But at least I think it's great that communities are trying to set up resources. They're also setting up, we've had a plethora of centers that you can go to get information just for help, what to do for you, what to do for your neighbors, for loved ones. So I like that the communities at least are stepping forward, and we're not just moving past the August historic event. We're still continuing to get some sort of help and lead people in the right direction. So it's always a good thing. Well, speaking of rain, the remnants of Tropical Storm Mario brought extreme weather to Southern California this past weekend. This is video from Big Bear in San Bernardino County, which is experiencing some flash flooding, mudslides over the weekend, and lightning strikes. The heaviest rain this weekend actually happened in Central Valley Sierras and Southern California. Mudslides that plowed into homes, it flooded roads, and even trapped some drivers for hours. Sadly, though, the flash flooding did lead to the death of a 2-year-old boy that was overtaken by rushing waters in a car and was separated from his father.
Oh, and our hearts go out to that family, absolutely. Now, that same storm caught people off guard by flooding roads after a new round of monsoon storms hit the Valley of Arizona near Loop 303 and I-17 on Saturday. You can see from the video there. Oof, that's tricky. So at one point, the fire department was called after a car got stuck. Thankfully, though, that driver was helped to safety and is doing okay.
Well, it's good. In some of those areas, you think about that they've had some drought conditions. They have that very dry soil. So a lot of times, yes, their roads are getting flooded. And of course, I don't really like seeing people driving through the roads, but they sometimes don't have the amount of roads that they can travel on compared to here. So at least no one was injured in that situation, and people were able to get some help from the local EMS officials.
Absolutely.
One thing that we're continuing to talk about, moving up the coast to Washington, the Bear Gulch fire in Olympic National Forest is still showing no signs of slowing down. Now, it first sparked back on July 6th, a long time ago, but believe it or not, so far, 18,000 acres have burned, and the fire is only 4% contained.
Oh, wow.
Not a good sign there. Crews have come to the conclusion that the fire will likely burn until there's a significant change in weather. So we're continuing, obviously, to watch some of the details on this. Of course, you can see from that footage a lot of trees, not many areas dealing with populations of people in towns. But whether it's going to be impacting towns or not, it's the air quality. It's impacting so much more than just people who might be living there. And of course, there are some people who do reside in the mountains, so we're going to continue to watch that, and hopefully more than 4% will be contained at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that topic too, new research details the impacts of wildfire smoke in the U.S. We've clearly dealt with it here for a couple of months. Now, a study published in the journal Nature says wildfire smoke is responsible for more than 41,400 deaths a year. Now, that figure is more than twice what was previously found in other studies. Now, the authors of the study predict the number will grow by an additional 26 to 30%, or 1,000, I should say, deaths within the next 25 years because of heightened fire risks from climate change. Researchers used around 2 decades of death records as well as satellite and ground data on wildfire smoke pollution in order to measure how smoke exposure impacted those deaths.
Yeah, it's definitely not something we want to see or hear anyways. But, so fires are something we're continuing to talk about, especially with climate change occurring. And while we may not necessarily have those direct impacts, we've been talking about that smoke. The air quality is so poor. So as long as there's fires and the jet stream continues to move from west to east, bringing in some of that smoke, we'll still have some impacts here to talk about in the upcoming years.
And you think of those areas too, whether it be Canada, which is the smoke that we've primarily seen, or out west, they have a wildfire season. So, they have a period of time where they're not dealing with wildfire smoke. But you have to think there's an entire season year after year, and that really impacts your body.
Yeah, no, it does. And there's going to be some big changes, especially with the wildfires. I mean, we're talking about people, can they rebuild? I mean, can you even travel to these locations? There's all these impacts. And I think we are just getting into the beginning of it. And unfortunately, like you mentioned, I mean, the increase of deaths, it's something obviously we don't want to hear about.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to switch gears here, though. No fires here. We're dealing with some rain and storm stuff.
Yeah, we don't often start in Wisconsin with our regional weather, but hey, the action is here. We did have one severe thunderstorm warning in our area, specifically Fond du Lac and Dodge County earlier this morning, but then even areas out west had a handful of severe thunderstorm warnings as well, as a morning line moved through parts of the state. Now, that line is out over Lake Michigan right now, but you can see that there is still development up north. You can see just towards the northwest of Green Bay at more of an isolated or scattered rate. We've got a few decent cells south of La Crosse. Those are going to continue to move eastward. And then zooming in on our home in southern Wisconsin, at least for the Milwaukee and surrounding areas, we still have a few cells south of Waukesha, down into parts of Walworth County. Fort Atkinson, about to see some of these showers moving on through. Beaver Dam, you've got some lightning, some thunder, a little pop-up it looks like in Ozaukee County. So we've got the energy here right now, all thanks to that storm system that's still bringing impacts to parts of Wisconsin. A closer view of what we've got just south of La Crosse. There's also some lightning in this. It's not turned on right now, but all of this has lightning in it. And once again, it is going to continue, it looks like, to track off towards the east. So it's possible if it holds together here in the next couple of hours, that could be another round of some showers and storms for some of our inland areas. Think, Fond du Lac, Dodge County. So we're unsettled, to say the very least. And we're not alone. There are a handful of areas across the U.S. right now dealing with showers and thunderstorms. In fact, you can see some heavy rainfall across Indiana as well as Ohio. I believe there are still some flood headlines for the lower Mississippi Valley, parts of Arkansas to be more specific. You can still see some of those monsoon rains ongoing across the southwest, including near the Phoenix area. And then it extends for the most part, at least for showers and thunderstorms, that is, up to about Montana. There are a handful of spots under a threat for some severe weather. We have both marginal as well as slight risks out there for parts of the Great Plains, the central portions of our country, as well as out towards the east. You can see parts of Ohio and southward under a slight as well as marginal risk. So there is the chance for a handful of communities to see some stronger storms today. The marginal risk, worth mentioning too, does extend into southern Wisconsin, although I'm not terribly concerned from here. Earlier this morning was telling, of course, with the fact that some of those storms were on the stronger side. Now you'll notice Wisconsin is not included in the heavy rain outlook, although with how high our dew points still are, it is possible we still see pockets of rain, just not as great of a threat as some of our western and southern as well as southeastern communities. And of course the southwest still under that threat for some heavy rainfall and flooding. Here are those flood headlines that I just mentioned. There is still one active flash flood warning in parts of Arkansas, and it looks like there's just one north of Dallas too. So that's been the trend so far this morning. Areas across the U.S. just dealing with pockets of heavy rain at times. Now going forward, we still could see more showers and thunderstorms. It's interesting that La Crosse is already seeing some development down towards the south. I do wonder if that's going to be our next batch for later on this afternoon. If that's the case, then I think the timing on this is just a little too late. We'll just be doing a bit of nowcasting here throughout the remainder of the day, but we're not done with storms just yet, especially central and southern Wisconsin. We certainly through the night tonight could have a little bit more. And now for Tuesday, I think the state is still going to have cloud cover, maybe some morning fog, and then you can still see maybe a few isolated showers or a rumble of thunder off and on throughout the afternoon and evening. And same with Wednesday. It looks like later in the week we should begin to dry out, but clouds will likely still be with us. Temperatures up towards the north going to be considerably cooler than those of us in southern Wisconsin. Just keep in mind with the fact that we still have a chance for rain, temperatures will likely be up and down a little bit. As rain moves in, they'll drop, and any dry time they may climb. But it's going to be a humid day today once again. A pocket of cooler air out west. You can see 60s for highs across parts of Montana. All those 90s are still down towards the south, the southwest, and the south central parts of our country. East Coast is actually looking pretty good right now, 70s and 80s. And those of us with that chance for storms also in the 70s. So you can see temperatures from here going to be pretty steady for at least today. We drop a little bit, especially with a lake breeze, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before climbing into the weekend. And I know this is something everybody cares about because the humidity has just been dreadful. Dew points are still going to be high through at least Tuesday. I do think Wednesday will feel it as well. But then especially next weekend, as we say goodbye to this storm system for good, we'll really feel the relief.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to have some very crisp air or pleasant air at least for some time. It's due. Fall's here.
You're right. Today's fall. Come on.
It just doesn't feel like fall. Well, you know what? We are going to, do we have time to talk about this story? Hopefully
yeah, we're making time. We're making time.
Okay, we're going to take a look at a park in Alaska because it's a special week where some brown bears are ready to compete in the 2025 Fat Bear Week. Yes, this year 12 bears will showcase their resiliency of who gained the most weight in order to survive the harsh winters. It showcases the bears' success foraging sockeye salmon at the Brooks Rivers, which highlights the importance of their ecosystem for survival. Now, this started back in 2024, and the contest is set up similar to a bracket-style tournament. So each week, voters, including you here in Wisconsin, can go online and vote to eliminate one of the 12 bears. The annual online voting contest starts tomorrow on Tuesday, September 23rd. A winner will be announced next week on Tuesday, September 30th. 30th. So if you want to watch the Bears live, eating the salmon, and vote on the Bears, you can go to fatbearweek.org. I know, a little silly there, but you know, that's what they're doing this time of year.
Exactly.
Getting ready for winter.
This has become really popular, and I think it just brings happiness to a lot of people.
I love this shot. This is
I
a
do
camera,
too.
I think. I was asking you about this.
Beautiful view of Milwaukee right now. Cloud cover, it's still with us. Don't you worry. We have plenty more coming up here on Wisconsin Weather Experts. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. Now, we've been talking a lot about things happening down here at Earth, but we're going to take it to space because we had a special interview today with someone that's a local member of the NASA IMAP expert. And Nicola Genowitz this morning had a chance to ask him about some of the 3 new spacecrafts that they're going to launch tomorrow into space.
Outer space has its own weather. Storms from the sun that can harm satellites, astronauts, and even our own power grids right here on Earth. So tomorrow morning, big day at NASA. NASA is launching 3 new spacecraft that will map space weather and the sun's influence across our solar system. This is really neat stuff. So here to join us now live to talk about it, we have NASA IMAP expert, Dr. Dave McComas. Good morning to you, Professor. Nice to see you.
Good morning, thank you.
Hi. Okay, so big launch day tomorrow. Can you tell us about each of these 3 brand new spacecraft and what you hope to learn from them?
Sure. So we have 3 spacecraft going off. The one that I'm leading is called the Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe, or IMAP. The next one is SWIFO, which is a space weather dedicated mission. And the third one is Carruthers, which looks at the Earth and sees the sort of outer atmosphere of the Earth. All 3 of those look at different aspects of space weather. And space weather is really important. It's the sun varying over time and from time to time letting off material that comes out and interacts with the Earth and causes major space storms.
Yeah, no, that it sounds really interesting and important to know. You know, here at Fox 6, our weather experts work really hard to forecast the weather here on Earth. But can you talk about how weather that is far, far away can impact the conditions that we see locally?
Sure. So the space weather affects technological things like satellites, but the satellites are now part of all of our lives. I mean, GPS drives tractors in the fields, for example, and when you have a bad space weather event, it can change how the tractors drive and get them out of the rows of crops that they should be in. So there are a lot of effects of space weather. So what happens is that this 1,000,000-mile-an-hour solar wind that comes out from the sun occasionally makes a big bubble. That's what you're showing right now, that can come out and strike the Earth and couple a lot of energy from the sun into the Earth's magnetosphere. And the cool thing about IMAP and SWIFO and Carruthers is they're sitting out at the Sun-Earth Lagrange point, L1, which is about 1 million miles sunward of the Earth. And that's a place where material comes and passes over about half an hour before it arrives at Earth. So we get about a half an hour advanced warning of these major storms.
No, it's super interesting. And we know that NASA has plans to send astronauts to the moon and maybe eventually Mars in the future. Can you explain how these missions this week will help NASA prepare for the Artemis program and other future crewed flights?
Yeah, absolutely. Very important for those programs. So there's the space weather that's coming out from the sun, and there's this advanced warning that I've already talked about. There's another aspect of space weather, which is the material coming in from outside. There's very dangerous galactic cosmic radiation that comes in from the rest of the galaxy, from supernovas and novas and out of exploded stars. And they make very high energy particles. And those particles can come in and they're very dangerous for humans in space. But about 90% of them are actually shielded out by our heliosphere, the boundary of the space that the solar wind inflates with the solar wind that it's making. And so there's an interaction between the two, and that interaction shields most of the galactic cosmic radiation out and makes it possible to send people to Mars. If it weren't for the shielding of our heliosphere, you wouldn't really be able to send people to Mars at all.
Safety obviously is of utmost importance at NASA. Thank you so much, Professor Dave McComas, for joining us live from NASA. Really interesting day tomorrow. We hope it all goes well.
Thanks so much. And let me just mention, I'm from Milwaukee, so it's great to talk to you.
Oh, you are? Wait, what part of Milwaukee?
I grew up on the north side of Milwaukee.
Oh my gosh, well, will you let us know if you're back in town? We'd love to have you in studio.
Absolutely, I'll do that.
Oh, that would be awesome. See, it goes to show. Kids watching at home, you can go work for NASA.
There you
from
go.
Southeast Wisconsin.
Guys, I have so many questions for him because we do talk about these geomagnetic storms. That's what brings us the northern lights or the aurora borealis. We've had quite a frequent amount of talks actually over the past year and a half for that. So when he's talking about space weather, not only does it bring us this array of colors, but he's mentioning that it does impact satellites. It's impacting GPS systems, radio systems. There's all of this technology near the surface too that has impacts from these events other than just the beauty it can show in the sky. So really great stuff to see what they're going to get information-wise for the future and give us advance notice for warnings.
Oh, that is fascinating. We were just talking about how space, everything space, space weather, it's just another tier of science and takes true understanding, and it's just so fascinating.
It's a whole other dimension. I guess we'll literally
there you
put it there with a little pun. Well, we're going to go to another dimension after this break. Stay tuned. We have a lot to talk about because it's the first day of fall.
It is. Stick around. Happy fall, y'all. Welcome back,
We're
everybody.
welcoming back. Yes, we're excited today. It's fall.
It is.
Officially, it's here. It's my favorite season.
It's my favorite season as
I
well.
love it. Well, since it is the first day of fall, it's not meteorological fall, it's astronomical fall. And this is going to begin at 1:19 this afternoon. It's known as the autumnal equinox, or it's September equinox, when the sun's rays cross the celestial equator. That's an imaginary extension of Earth's equator line into space. Now, that's going to be for the northern hemisphere. We're talking about fall starting. Now, the sun's rays travel from north to south throughout the year, and they'll make their way as we head through the upcoming months towards the Tropic of Capricorn, and that's when we officially hit winter. But because we have the sun's rays directly over the equator, it gives us approximate equal length of day and night.
Yeah, and that kind of varies, season by season.
Yes.
But it also begins the start of shorter days and longer nights. We know the length of a day is the same, but the sun rises later in the morning and sets earlier at night. Oh, it makes us sad, but it creates the length of daylight to be less. Now, on average, we will lose about 2.5 minutes of daylight each day from here. Now, the autumnal equinox doesn't provide perfectly equal day and night because of two main factors: atmospheric refraction and the size of the sun. The equinox date changes because our calendar is not perfectly synchronized with the Earth's actual orbit around the sun. So that's why it'll kind of vary season by season.
Yeah, and it's good to know because when we talk about, it's exactly equal, it's not, and it doesn't happen on the same day. In fact, for the upcoming days, we'll, again, approximately have 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness. Right. But with fall, we've been very warm.
We have, as of late, yes.
Yes, September, for meteorological fall, at least it's September, October, November. We've been very warm in September, and our projected outlook still keeps us warm heading into October. So the warmest fall we've ever had on record was back in 1931, average temperature of 57.8 degrees. Now, of course, that was a while ago. Back in 2016, that was our second warmest, and 2024 was our third warmest.
Amazing, and that was last year.
Right, and I'm wondering if we're going to be close to this just because it's been so warm already.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we did have a stretch of cooler nights, think back August, early September, and I think that's helped change some of the leaves up north. But here's your latest fall foliage map from Travel Wisconsin. We're going to continue to update this in the days ahead. So happy fall, everybody. And thanks for staying with us for another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. We will see you right back here tomorrow at noon.